Hi, Avish.
Hi, Sid. How you doing?
I'm good. Just, you know, gathering my thoughts after checking up the usual sports news. And then when I saw that Dhoni had retired, it was a shock. Not a bad shock, just, something unexpected because I was hoping he'd play the T20 World Cup and win it for India because India is so good at T20. And yeah, something to accept, but he's had a great career and I will show the latest stuff about him. But what's your thoughts on it?
Look, one of the most well-known cricketers, of the modern era, very well known all over the world. I feel his decision, in a way, it happened because of the T20 World Cup being postponed this year. So that played obviously a big part in his decision. But I mean, what a phenomenal cricketer he's been for India over the past 15 years. From the time he made his debut, and taking over the captaincy at the time that he did. When Indian cricket was in turmoil, and brought them to a stage where they were uh, you know competitive, and then went on to win so many tournaments, IC tournaments, made them put them into made them into a real powerhouse of a team. A lot of things that he changed in that Indian setup that up till today has obviously not been removed, especially when it comes to the fielding. I think the fielding has really improved from this Indian side as opposed to Indian teams of the past. He's brought so much of athleticism and so much of confidence, to this Indian side over the years. And they obviously one of the best teams in the world at the moment, and a lot of that has to do with Dhoni. So well-known cricketer. I mean, they make movies about this player. So we wish him well. But yeah, it did come as it didn't come as such a big surprise because of the T20 World Cup being postponed. I would think, had it been played, he probably would have had his last stint and obviously called it a day. But that's a man for you. I mean, he's a man of few words, and he loves to do things, very low key, and he's a guy that didn't want to, you know wouldn't be looking forward to a farewell match or something. He did it very quietly
Mm,
on his Twitter account, very
yeah,
quietly, and
Instagram, I think also.
in the Dhoni way, and announced his retirement.
Yeah, I was just gonna go through a few things here about Dhoni because it's quite a interesting read. Like he had his, one-day debut against Bangladesh in 2014 in December 23, and then his test debut, I remember, was against Sri Lanka. And as you can see by the stats here, and then the T20 debut was actually against us here at the Wanderers. And then it's amazing because I think he's. It's funny because I don't actually recall his T20 debut so much because I always thought his T20 started at the World Cup in South Africa. But either way, I mean, he really was an inspiration because I think because of him, the T20 really took a bit of a craze in India, and that's how the IPL got formed. Like now, speaking of IPL, if you can see here, it's his debut was against Pretty Zinta's team, Punjab, and then now the awards here are quite a lot, man. The ICC One Day Player of the Year, 2008 and 2009. Then he's got like the Civilian Award, the fourth highest. So hmm, I kind of envy this guy, man.
No, quite a phenomenal player. I mean, I think the one thing that you'd probably remember of Dhoni is his captaincy. Very cool very cool captain. Never really gets flustered. And
Yes.
and and definitely knows how to shepherd a team. and you know he's batting as well. I mean, uh,
Yeah.
especially in one day, very dynamic. It reminds you a lot of a finisher. I mean, he redefined what a finisher was in ODI cricket
Yeah.
with his batting as well. I mean, seemingly impossible, targets that have been made possible because of Dhoni, and you know, flamboyant, cool, colorful. Those are the words that you'd obviously remember Dhoni.
Mm. And I think because of how we started here in South Africa, winning that T20 World Cup, I mean, it really made India great, man. That IPL is just off the charts, man. So we've got to thank Dhoni for that indirectly.
No, definitely. I mean, them winning the inaugural T20 here in SA, it was obviously a stepping stone for that team at that point because, as I said, the Indian team were in quite a bad patch and they needed a change of guard. So, this guy came in, new ideas, fresh
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah.
And, in order to eliminate that image of what India was in the past, they had to change something. And I think he made that change with, the players that he wanted. He wanted specialists. He wanted one-day specialists,
Mm.
T20 specialists. He wanted
Yes, and I mean, it's amazing
you
when I
know
look at these records.
um,
Yeah, it's like
look, I mean, a lot has been said about his test career, but I felt his style of play was
uh-huh.
more accustomed to the ODI setup. I think in
Yes,
test matches he didn't really have that freedom that he had in ODIs.
yes,
So in ODIs you'll always see the best of him. In test matches, probably holding a thing or two back. So I mean, he
yeah,
made a decision some time back to retire from
yeah,
test matches. I mean, he
yeah,
didn't have a very bad test career. I mean, if you look at it,
yeah,
those are quite decent numbers. I mean,
yes,
for number seven, I mean,
yes,
4.876 at an average of
yes,
36,
yes,
633.50. So I mean,
yes,
if you think about it, he normally used to bat like lower down the order and
yes,
at number seven. Still a good record. I mean, also keeping wickets. So I mean,
mm,
any wicket keeper would take that. But I mean, if you look at his ODI stats, I mean, that's where it really,
yeah,
stands out. I mean, 350 matches. That's quite a bit. But I know the Indian team generally plays a lot more cricket than most other nations.
that's true.
And
They play too much cricket.
10,723. Yeah, they generally do play much more ODI cricket, I would say, than most other teams.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and
so I
then
think he made a good decision
yeah, then
to
yeah,
obviously
mm,
leave the test team,
yes,
you know,
and
retire
focus
from
on the
test
good
cricket
goal.
and focus on ODIs.
Yeah,
I think that was the best move he could
mm,
have made. He made at that time of his career. It actually, in a way, prolonged his career because had he been playing the 5 day as well, it would have obviously put a strain on him
yeah,
as a captain as well. And you wouldn't have really seen him come this far, though, as he has. And I still feel he had a year or two left in him. So, you know,
yes,
uh, I mean, it's a sad day for cricket. I mean, but you got to accept it. Uh, Somebody else has got to take the mantle up now, and Dhoni's done what he's done. He's done the best. He's put Indian cricket on the map.
yeah,
Make no mistake.
and
You
I've
know,
always noticed that
he
whenever
turned him into
yeah.
world beaters.
I've noticed that whenever Dhoni is captain at, he's done a really good job. I mean, I have a theory regarding the whole test thing as captain. I think if he had the resources that Kohli has, I think his test record would have been a lot better. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Kohli because Kohli's mindset has obviously shaped the test team. But if you have the right resources, you should be able to do justice. Like if you look at a guy like Steve Waugh, and I'm not trying to digress here, but he had so many great players. People were making a funny comment saying like if like even a chimp could captain the Australian team, so many great players and all that. So I think, but I think yeah, Dhoni did a great job at whatever. situations he was given. And I think if you look at, I mean, he did it, obviously IPL. We don't need to comment on IPL. He's been fantabulous. He's won many titles for Chennai, and then T20. He's been, one day at T20.
Most certainly. I would say the one thing. I mean, look at his IPL average. It's quite phenomenal. You know,
Yeah.
42.21. Then he at number 7. That's quite high. I mean, I think the one thing that he really did when captaining a team is he made his teams very difficult to beat. You know, very competitive, and never know when they were didn't want to obviously didn't know when they were in a position of losing the game. There'll always be an opportunity to win the game from any position, and I think that's what Dhoni brought to his teams. They didn't know they were beaten. If I had to put it into that context,
Yeah,
they
and if
did not
you,
know they were beaten.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at these records, and I want to just talk about the main ones because we could do a whole, this video will take forever if you go through every single, record, and I'm sure the viewers can see all this themselves. But I just want to look at the quick main one. Like, he's the third captain, the first non-Australian to win 100 games. That's pretty amazing. And then his keeping was really off the charts. Most stumpings. The way he used to stump those guys was just scary, man.
Yeah, no, he was quite energetic behind those stumps.
Yes, and then his 300 one-day catches, the first Indian wicketkeeper, and then in the fourth. So generally, and then we were speaking about Test records. Well, here it is. So 90 Test matches, 33 off centuries, 6 okay, I think. This is like, wow. Yeah, man. I think he's achieved every
I
single
mean,
record here for India, I think. But I think,
just looking at these numbers,
Mhm.
it just indicates that this probably has been the golden era for Indian cricket under Dhoni. And I mean, even those test numbers are quite impressive. I mean, 27 test wins as captain, surpassing Ganguly, and Ganguly wasn't the worst of captains.
Definitely.
And
I think he set
so
he was like the torchbearer.
superb.
He's like the torchbearer for the Indian cricket team.
Most certainly. Look, I think in a way he's going to be a hard act to follow. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
Because in the shadow of Dhoni. I'm not sure who's next in line at the moment.
I do feel sorry for Cody because to follow Dhoni is not easy, but he's done pretty well. I mean, he's done a great job on the test team. Just that the one day thing, he was a bit unlucky. I mean, they played great in the World Cup, only to mess up in the semifinals. Kind of reminds us of a particular team, but I don't want to mention that because that would be so mean. India's
New
like,
Zealand. Yeah,
no, I wasn't going to mention
I
New
guess
Zealand, but now that you mentioned New Zealand, they also are another team. But oh yeah, never mind. I'll just say it. It's us.
definitely a side not to take lightly.
Yeah, South Africa. Yeah, yeah. India's been like South Africa in the World Cup semi-final. They seem to find a way of choking it, but not to digress again. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I'm gonna miss him because you only start to appreciate him once you don't have him anymore. And when you look at these records, you start to appreciate it more.
Now, I would say the one thing about him. Um, I think India has been one of the most consistent teams in
Yes.
cricket whilst he's been in captaincy. One of the most consistent ODI teams, one of the most consistent T20 teams. So I think that would be that says a lot about Dhoni and what he wanted to bring to Indian cricket, and I think he's done the job that he was put to do. He's done it with flying colors, and wish him all the best on his retirement.
Yeah, man. And yeah, it's still, I'm like, I don't know. I'm still like speechless in a way. I don't know if speechless is the word, but I guess I'm just like feeling a bit like sad, but not like bad sad. It's like, you kind of want to see someone at least win it on a high. Like I remember like how Sachin Tendulkar like got his World Cup, dream, but I think Dhoni's achieved like everything. So, can't be greedy, I guess. You just got to appreciate it, enjoy. And I think on a final note, because I remember we were, you know, debating this actually on WhatsApp. So, what's your thoughts on the second test match between England and Pakistan? A real dead fest, man.
Very disappointing. Really disappointing. I mean, I expected so much from this test match, and unfortunately, the weather didn't play its part. For some reason, that's going to be the venue for the next test match. We can only hope that we'll get a full game because it'd be disappointing if this, the weather has a final say in the series. Pakistan were in a decent position, uh, in this test match, and I think the weather just threw us, out of the window, and it's all to play for in the last test match because it can go either way now.
Yes.
But I think Pakistan wouldn't be too upset with it being a draw because they can salvage something from the series now. They can get a drawn series because there's only one more test. So England can't take them lightly
Yes.
because you've just got one game now, and it's a potential. You've got to play your best game. You can't play for a draw. You got to go all out to win. Be it England, be it Pakistan, you got to go all out to win. So I think it's going to be a fantastic finale, and just hope the weather plays its part there.
Yeah.
Just fingers crossed. We get 5 days of uninterrupted play because that's what we require. But I think at the moment in England, um, I've seen quite a few test matches recently, especially in the West Indies series as well, where the rain has played a big part in it, and a little bit frustrating. I mean, I know they hosted quite a good, successful World Cup last year. There were a few games that were rained out, unfortunately. SA's game against West Indies was one of them.
I think we
We
got lucky
never know
there
how they
because I don't know
perform
we
against
were
the West
gonna,
Indies. We never know now. The game was
yeah.
washed out. But I feel they've got to look into getting probably a little bit more protection and at those venues, because I know Australia has got one stadium that's obviously has a an enclosed roof in Sydney.
I remember that.
I think it's the
Good time.
Telstra Arena that they obviously used for the Olympics as well. Some good years back. So
Yeah, I remember.
look, it's
Yeah.
a suggestion. It's an idea that they obviously can look at because I mean we know the weather in England at this time of the year. It's more accustomed to football and rugby than actually cricket because I mean there's so much of rain. But it's something for the authorities to look at, or if obviously they can't get to that, and test matches, obviously there's so much at stake in test matches, and you don't want to see a test match that's lost by weather for 3 days. And I mean, you're playing a three match series, which means it's going to be a disadvantage to one team. If it gets rained out, and they obviously need to win that game desperately to either win the series or tie the series, or what have you. So there's so much that's at stake in these series, and they can't take it lightly anymore.
I'm just thinking now, what are they gonna ask you? Oh yeah, and I remember that indoor series was SA versus Australia the one time. Yeah, that was a nice series. I think that series was a drawn series. I think the third match was a draw, something like that. I think it was.
You're making me gig.
Sorry.
This is probably some time back now. I'm trying to recapture what you
Yeah,
just said.
I think Hansi Cronje was captain of that series. Yeah, that was all.
I do recall I do recall one game at that venue that I spoke about now, the Telstra Arena in Sydney. So I think there was a game they played under lights. I'm not sure it's going to work out in England because I mean,
Is
in a
that
closed stadium,
it's
obviously
very
it's going to require
expensive. The roof
lighting and
itself
so
is
on. So you
very
got to probably look
costly.
into a day-night test match there. So
Oh, I like the way
I'm
you
not sure
think
why.
game.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure why they're not keen on day-night test matches. Like, the other countries, obviously, like Australia have tried it
No,
already.
they've done a
SA
day-night
have
test
tried
match
it.
against West Indies. They did that, and England obviously won that. But the problem is that I don't think they expected the weather to be this bad. Otherwise, if they did, they would have probably considered it. But then I think, yeah, I like the idea of
Probably
indoor.
considered it.
Sorry.
Probably. They would have probably considered it. But unfortunately, it is what it is. So
Yeah.
it's a finale now. It's all set up for the final the final test on Friday. So I mean, there's still a lot of cricket left to play in
Yes.
this series. I think I'm not writing off Pakistan here.
Yeah.
Pakistan
Yeah.
do
And
have
those.
resources.
Yeah.
It's just about what Pakistan side pitches up on that day. That's actually more important.
Yeah.
Because
But
consistency is obviously a thing that's a bit of a challenge for them. But they perform quite well in England. Of most of the Asian sides, they've been the one that's performed
yeah.
pretty well
Mm.
over the past couple of years in England. I think they won about 3 tests so far in the past 3 years. So I mean that's a great record.
I think that's also more of a mental thing. Like if you have a good record against someone, you have that comfort. You have that comfort feeling, and also I think they have good bowlers, which really does help. And I think not to speculate or to add a bit of masala or controversy, but I think if this test match had happened, the second test match, and if the conditions were very similar every single day, overcast, it would have been fun to see how England would have faced that bowling because man, that ball was going all over the place, man.
No, definitely. It would have been quite difficult, mind you. Um,
And
that
237
score of
was not a bad
236,
score on that pitch.
not a bad score, not a great score as well, but I think it probably would have. I mean, the Pakistani bowlers would probably have tested the English batsmen quite a bit in those conditions because those conditions would have been quite favorable for them. Um, we all hope that it's it's 5 days of clear weather. I mean, there's so much left in the series and there's so much to
Yeah,
play for. I mean, it'd really be a shame because I mean this series you expected it to be a little bit more competitive than the West Indies series was competitive, but I mean the way the West Indies capitulated in the last test, I mean,
yeah,
really
very sad.
disappointing.
Yeah,
So you would probably have expected Pakistan to give England a little bit more of a sterner test,
yes.
and
I
and,
think
and and it was going that way in the second test. Unfortunately, the rain played its part, and we all know about that first. It was a thriller as well. It could have
mm,
went either way. So
yeah, Pakistan should
these
have
these teams are
taken
evenly
that one.
matched.
Yeah, I mean, many people like
Pakistan would have taken that one.
they should have. I mean, another team, especially India, if they were in Pakistan's position where they had it from A to Z, they would have taken it. Fine, I know India has choked certain advantages, but Pakistan dominated that match majority. But anyway, that's that match. And now, as you said, we've got the third, match. And yeah, I can't wait, man. Hopefully, it's another good, exciting pitch. Good for the Test cricket, man. It's there in enough of these flat, dead pitches. Nice to have a ball. Nice to have a pitch that just does something.
I was just going to say, please don't ask me for a prediction.
No, 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 no. I think I have a feeling because it's a drawn match. I think Pakistan have more incentive to win it because you never know what was going to happen in the second test match. I have a theory, but just no use pointing out a theory. So I have a feeling it could be either way. I love a drawn series.
series would be fantastic, and I do think Pakistan have the ability to come back into this test match. It all depends on their mindset and how they perform at the end of the day. If they perform to their potential, I can see them winning this test match. If they play below their potential, then it's going to be difficult. So they've got to play to their potential. They've got to play to their strengths. If they play to their strengths, they can give the English a really hard time with bat and ball in hand. So their bowling has always been their strength. So I think if it's overcast, the ball's moving around, probably have a bowl first. I wouldn't normally say this, but with Pakistan and their attack, they are a team that can rattle you. So if conditions are favorable for bowling, have a bowl. But if not, if it is general, I would say bat first. Runs on the board are crucial as well.
It's funny you say that, because in the second test match, sorry to interrupt you, the commentator that said that Pakistan was brave to have batted first in that second test match. So, yeah, but I think they were scared that if they had to bowl first, and then if England had made even a decent score, and if they had to bat under those conditions that you were seeing, they probably would have felt out of the game. So they just thought, let us just bat first, get run on the board, and then bowl as well as we could. And then it's a difficult one.
We can speculate here as to what decision they are going to make, but
True.
at the end of the day, if you decide to ball first, you decide to bat first. Your executions is still got to be spot on. I mean, you still got to make it count. I mean, it's pointless you batting first and getting bundled out for 190. It's not going to help your cause. So, if you're going to bat first, you got to bat long, or bat to always bat time.
Yeah.
I mean, if runs are going to get hard to come by, you got time, and if you can eke up 320, 350, that's quite a commanding total in England in the first innings. It gives you a chance to control the game.
That's a lot of runs.
Control the game. So
350.
It's a lot of runs. It's a lot of runs.
And these conditions,
that's what they obviously need to target.
I mean, even if they get to 250 to 300, I think on that pitch, on this, depending on what pitch you get, if it's a fair pitch, then over 300 runs would be very good. But yes, as you said, all the speculation is, it's too much. We rather look forward to the match, and I'm kind of excited to.
My only concern is the Pakistan batting. There's a few concerns there that I have, especially with their top order and their middle order, not really settled. There's a lot of chopping and changing there. A lot of young players as well, so they need. I mean, they don't have that musbah anymore. Where he could just hold up an end and bat. Everybody will bat around them. So
yes,
they don't have that senior figure anymore. That's very important, especially in Test match or a Yunus that could was an anchor that somebody that you put in the same context as Callis and Dravid and Ponting, and a real
times have changed.
All-time great, a real all-time great. So they don't have that sort of play anymore. So
everyone
I
wants
think
to
England
just get their way out of trouble and just hope for the best. Not easy, man. That's why they call Test cricket like the toughest form. Because you have to.
It is the toughest discipline. It is. It's the toughest discipline. It's what every cricketer aspires to play. Every cricketer's dream is to play Test cricket for their country. I would think it's every cricketer's dream to get to play Test cricket for their country.
Nowadays, it's all about.
It's the ultimate honor.
It's all about the money.
The ultimate, I think if you could make it as a Test player, you could probably be able to cultivate your game into an ODI and T20 as well. We've seen a lot of players that can play all three formats. Yeah. I'm not saying every player has that capability, but I mean, Test cricket shows your character. It shows your mettle. Yeah. It shows your toughness. And if Pakistan if Pakistan do win this Test match, they need to show a lot of toughness. They need to show a lot of character. I mean, it's not going to be easy with that England attack, and we know how good they are. They're one of the best attacks at the moment. You know, very well settled.
Yeah, I have a theory though.
It's going to be difficult.
Yeah, but on a final note, my theory is that Pakistan would prefer a pitch that's probably dry, in the sense that if it's dry, they can at least bat well on it. And then what they'd hope for is that if the conditions are overcast when they are bowling, then they can definitely bowl England out for whatever score, and then pray that the weather is sunny, so that they just hit the runs, and then it's overcast again and they bowl. That's what Pakistan needs generally, because it's not going to be easy if everything is all level, you know. And I shouldn't say that, because Pakistan are a good team, but England at home are like another beast, man. So I think it's all going to depend on conditions, man. It's all a matter of variables.
I expect it to be a similar pitch, so I expect it to be a typical English wicket where it's going to be seaming around on the opening day. So if they do happen to bat first, they've got to make it count. You know, they've got a bat time. In England, you got a bat time. That's the most important thing. You got a bat time. You got to take time of the game. You got to frustrate the English attack. That's the one way that they can win this game. You know, and obviously when they bowling, whatever runs that they do make, you know, they attack. You know, set attacking fields, because I felt they were a bit defensive in that first test. You know, at certain times, especially when Butler and Wilkes were batting, and those are all, you know, especially Wilkes were like, I mean, he's a decent all-rounder, but low order batsman. I felt they could have been more attacking, but they went on a defensive mode, you know, and that cost them the game. So they cannot play, they cannot have that sort of mentality going into this test match. They've got to be on an attacking mode, you know, throughout.
Yeah, and on that final note, I just want to obviously say thanks to Dhoni for giving us such great highlights, and best of luck to Pakistan on Friday. And yeah, thanks for your time, my friend.
Thanks, sir. You take.
You too.